Before we go into any of the topics that we are going to discuss today, I should point out some of the things that I personally liked about my idea of Gangnam Beauty and some of the things that I did not. So, some of the things that I did, we did have a lot of character arcs. Suwa, especially, she seemed like such a bad person at the start. She did have a redemption arc at the end, if you do remember. It was quite small, but she does cut off some of her hair, which I believe is something that she did think would make her pretty, which is an overarching theme that we will discuss soon. And she does apologise, and she does give Midday a gift, even though she was very mean to her all the way through, basically. Midday becomes less a judgmental person and stops judging people based on their looks, which is great. She finds that there is more to life than beauty. Kyung-sok becomes more friendly and sociable with people. He also overcomes some of his personal issues in regards to his family, especially his mum. The background photography guy stops being so obsessed with Sawar, which is great for him, and does get over her. There's not much development outside of that. There's not a character art, unfortunately, for the character of Mop, who is an utter creep, and definitely should have had an arc where he realised that he was an awful person and a harasser. I don't think that really happened. He fake apologised once. But other than that, that would have been cool to see though. But not realistic. I guess it does have to be realistic in the fact that some people will have arcs in an amount of time and some people won't. They take longer to do that. Sometimes they don't at all. Taehee also stands up for herself, and she doesn't get back together with the guy that wants her after she becomes more confident, which is girl power. We love to see that. There's also a lot of addictive features because this is a K-drama and we want people to be watching it. A lot of cliffhangers. It's very fast paced, but it does have a lot of slow burn moments, especially with the romantic scenes that you want it to be fast. But it has a light palette, a colour appealing scheme, cute sound effects. It does replay the same scene with a different point of view, which I do like as well. It gets a bit boring if it lands on the same person for too long. It's also based on a webtoon, and you can see that with some of the features. It's almost comic-like. That's the things I liked. And then some of the things that I didn't like. The drawn-out scene of her changing because she was shy. He was looking away. He couldn't see her, but she was very shy about that still. I think it was a bit of overkill. She could have been a bit shy, but yeah, she was like, turn around, stand there for like 10 minutes and don't look at me because I don't want you to know when I've changed. The male lead having to look away when she eats a big burger. Girl. I'm not even going to touch that. Insensitive. Taehee spreads the word that Sua has her eating problem, which we'll discuss later. Despite having probably eating problems herself, she is a overweight girl, and so she would obviously know what it feels like to have difficulties with food and being perceived by other people. Yet she's very insensitive about this, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, because she should understand that and empathise with that. The repeated song, it's very annoying. In the "If There's Something in Your Eyes" song, I hate they repeat it so many times. Choose a different OST, thank you very much, please. The press conference, they swarm the mayor's office because he brought his daughter a brand name bag. He's a mayor, he's got a lot of money, of course he's gonna do that, but get over it. Everywhere, clean, non-vandalised, crazy, you wouldn't be seeing that. Maybe it's a very specific part of Korea, I don't know, I've not actually been to Korea, unfortunately. But it's quite unrealistic that nowhere would be vandalised and everywhere would be super clean. There's way less focus than normal on studying for their exams, which I cover briefly later. But there definitely should be, especially in Korea, Asian places. There should be more emphasis on studying and coursework. Midday suddenly sobers up and was able to walk in a straight line after being very, very drunk just moments before. And where did Midday's money come from? From the plastic surgery, where did her parents get that money from? The dad is a taxi driver and the mum doesn't work a lot. She's usually not working, which is obviously because she's being on screen, and that would be boring to see her working, but she's not seen to be working a lot. And he's only a taxi driver, so I can't imagine they'd have a lot of money, but they must have had it saved somehow. So I'm not sure about that one either. I don't know if that's a plot hole or I've missed something, but the thing was, it technically wraps things up at the end as well, which is the last point, and expresses a continuation of life. This is just a chapter of it. I did find it a bit weird though. It was quite abrupt to me. I'm not sure. I don't think there's going to be anything else because it's been quite a while now. But it did seem quite abrupt to me. I would have liked a tighter ending. But that's a personal thing, and I'll go on to express some of the things that I like about this, with all the different topics such as gender norms and grades that are expected, and Sunbae-Hubei relationship, and the most important one, beauty standards, coming up in the video. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Today I'll be discussing the K-drama My Idea is Gangnam Beauty. The central issue tackled in this drama is beauty standards, of course. This is a problem worldwide, heightened by adverts, social media, influences and expectations passed down the generations. Although each period of time has its own specific standards, such as curled bobs for the flapper age in the 1920s, or the slim waist accentuated by corsets, popularised in the Victorian and Georgian era. Although contrary to popular belief, tight lacing was not very common, and the main advantage of corsets, or stays, was to support the bust. Therefore, although thoroughly inconvenient, the pain for gay mentality we have in contemporary times was less prevalent in previous eras. Of course, these layers and layers of fabric were an inconvenience, but the periods leading up to all the extravagance was much more simple. There were less weighty garments, less focus on the striking beauty that came with the developments of fashion, regulation, and changing attitudes. Beauty standards are ingrained in most, if not every culture, but as made obvious by Korean media, there are extreme lengths that people have gone to in order to fulfill this exceptional criteria. In South Korea, netizens are constantly bombarded with images of perfect faces, K-pop idols with smooth skin, small noses and full lips. Models, actresses and all those in the public eye recommend the new beauty products or the latest diet, the latest technique for preventing aging. They spend hundreds and thousands on double eyelid surgery, following advice from gurus, and they spend countless hours critiquing themselves, editing their smallest imperfections. My Idea is Gangnam Beauty addresses this in even the title. Mireille identifies and is identified by being a beautiful woman through the means of plastic surgery. Gangnam Beauty is a term for this, as clearly simply complimenting her as a beautiful person isn't enough. People must remember to tear her down, to stigmatise her or prove faults in her, if only to compensate for their own insecurities and their downfalls. There is an emphasis on that if you are less beautiful than the next girl, you are therefore less than her. Hyun-swa, a secondary character in My Idea is Gangnam Beauty, recalls her school friend who had an ordinary face and was good to her, like a servant. Regardless of other attributes, intelligence, kindness, Swa was perceived as pretty. Thus, people flocked around her for attention and confirmation. As Mireille admits, when Swa calls her a friend, she felt happy, as if being friends with someone so pretty also made her pretty. Swa states that being pretty is a blessing because it means that people naturally like you. This is true. Aesthetically pleasing images and faces in turn cause the subject to be regarded favourably. You associate a pretty person unconsciously with a pretty heart. You assume that they must have good values and a healthy mindset. People regarded as ugly, on the other hand, are less pleasing to the eye, so they're not sought out as much, and they don't have any naturally positive associations. You need surgery on your unhealthy mindset, not your face, Hyun-sok says. As if she could help it, the society she was born into, the torturous bullying and exclusion she faced, simply because she wasn't deemed pretty. We can change our views as a society too. It all starts with what we choose to believe and how we choose to act. Then how we pass that information down to the people succeeding us. But these standards and subconscious judgment of other people's faces and bodies are embedded. So don't feel bad about it. Just as Mireille learned to do, shove the thoughts out of your mind gently as they come, and don't chat them. Unless, of course, you desperately need to vent and they were horrid to you first. But I can't quite begrudge you that. We're only human after all, but we can do better as individuals and as a whole. Anuna in My Idea is Gangnam Beauty was called a wilted flower by the other men on the student board committee, and a short-haired Hubei was told you have to grow your hair to look like a girl. Tae-hee, too, was scolded for eating too much. She was labelled as chubby, and her beauty was frequently disregarded due to her weight. Even her boyfriend wouldn't eat with her, or be seen with her because of his own embarrassment of her perceived flaw. But even then, Min-jung was dumped for being pretty but not really curvy. So women must be curvy but not chubby, they must have long hair to be credited their gender, and they must not show their age or not age at all. There are, of course, standards for men too, but more for women. Why? Because men have to be seen as breadwinners for hundreds of years. They should be rich, educated, and successful. Women should be docile and beautiful for the men and not usually for themselves. Fortunately, we have strayed away from this misogynistic and absurd way of thinking. So why have our attitudes on beauty remained the same? Why must women have long hair or appear young, defying the passage of time? Why must they own a curvy body, shape but not the rolls and extra fat that comes along with it? Who said so, and why should we listen to them? As I mentioned earlier, each age comes with its new standards and popularities. Being curvy or chubby was seen as beautiful and a positive thing in the medieval times. Weight was a sign of prosperity and fertility. Until the early 1900s, fatness was regarded favourably. Only then did the aesthetic stigma begin to occur. Of course, obesity can be serious and lead to several health complications, such as diabetes, heart disease, and premature death. However, it is possible to be plump and healthy, or at least not as much of a risk. It is also possible to be thin and unhealthy. Therefore, as long as you are taking care of yourself, weight shouldn't be an issue. Hair length too is fickle and changes with the time period. Age is unavoidable to all, although creams and surgeries have allowed women to defy it for a time. Genetics also comes into play here. Some people frankly age better than others, but at all ages they can be beautiful. Beauty is subjective, individual, and not always physical. However, people are still treated unfairly due to their looks, and others treated better because of this. This is an unescapable fact. On the topic of weight, another issue covered in My Ideas Gangnam Beauty was eating disorders and or difficulties. Most of it was covered by Suwa's character, although there are frequent mentions from other characters such as Tae-hee. Min-jung is on a diet in the latter half of the drama, although she is blatantly slim. My body changes instantly, even with 500 grams, is her argument, which could make sense as she is also very short. However, it doesn't change the fact that she appears to be a healthy weight, if not slightly under, and has no obvious weight issues or flaws. Mireille tells Kyung-suk later that Min-jung is on a diet to make a boyfriend, demonstrating the standards of not only women but men. Min-jung and Mireille's line of thinking here is that to obtain a partner they must be a certain weight. This plays into the concept of conditional love and the false belief that we must be a certain weight to be loved. Suwa has her own troubles with this, having been neglected and abandoned by her mother. When she was growing up, she was only ever given attention and positive treatment for being pretty. Thus she grew into the thought process that to be loved I must be pretty and cute. At the same time, I mustn't know that I'm pretty. I must be obedient and I should never be too smart. I must always smile and agree with others. I must always be kind and friendly. There are so many conditional factors to love and confirmation and acceptance. For all people, but mostly for women as shown through Suwa's character. Due to the association of being overweight and therefore not pretty, Suwa became obsessed with her weight. She tells her close friend, "I need a normal weight to look pretty," confirming this mentality. Suwa is then later found to be inducing vomiting after every meal, which is why she always brushed her teeth afterwards, having claimed that it was an act simply as a habit. She lies to the others that she doesn't diet, which is for some people true, but not in her case. This is because of her obsession with appearing normal and naturally beautiful. She dislikes artificial people and things, and for others to know that she isn't naturally thin to a fast-acting metabolism, they should think she is less beautiful. After this fact, the other girls go around spreading Suwa's eating problems. This is unfortunately a very realistic occurrence, especially with Sua's closest friend getting involved. When she is called out on it, she states, "Hey, I'm also annoyed. People think I'm weird because I'm her friend." This exemplifies the stigma around mental health issues and disorders, specifically eating disorders here. Although in modernity we have dramas such as Daily Dose of Sunshine and Mad for Each Other, which shed light on mental health problems, there is still a long way to come within daily life and within media portrayals. This drama does well to show the negative attitudes around the issue and how it affects the character. Fortunately, it is not all negative. In retort to Sua's friend's statement, Anuna says that you are already weird on your own, and scolds her for talking about Sua's personal issue behind her back. Also reaches out to Sua, even though she didn't like her originally, to check up on her. She comforts Sua and is there for her when no one else is, along with Mire, despite Sua's constant ridiculing and hatred of her. Mire also has a similar problem in the past, and empathizes with Sua, giving her support and choosing not to spread the rumour. She attempts to even argue with Tehi and her friend that Sua had digestion problems in order to save her from being criticised and viewed any differently. Although this didn't end up working, these instances exhibit the changing attitudes around mental health issues and the humanity and kindness still in the world. Additionally, although Sua had a stigma against plastic surgery, she admits that Mire is pretty and is likely that due to her own insecurities about her beauty that she harboured these thoughts at all. More positive outcomes of the beauty standard issue is the objectifying worker at the furniture shop was taken to the police station and fired by the company. The women on the university committee forced the men to wear six-pack shirts in order to simulate how the girls were forced to wear short skirts, tight tops, and were objectified by the men previously. Although this is a comedic scene for the payback, it is important to remember that it can happen both ways. It is more occurrent that it happens to women, but payback doesn't have to include doing the same bad thing back. Luckily, Wu Young scolds them, and the men do eventually apologise. Furthermore, the short-haired Hubei refuses to change her appearance, saying, "I don't want to seduce him by faking myself," which is an admirable act and provides a role model for viewers to follow, reminded of the fact that they don't need to change themselves for anyone. Tehi also rejects her ex's advances, prioritising her own happiness and self-assurance. She becomes more comfortable in herself and less self-conscious about her beauty and weight. This brings me to the penultimate part of beauty standard issue in My Ideas Gangnam Beauty. After thinking she got sprayed with acid, Sua attempts to take her own life, proving just how much she values beauty. To her, if she could not be beautiful, then there would be no point in living. Mire manages to stop her, and her angered rant is one of the most powerful in the show. "Are you happy because you're pretty? Why does it have to be this way? We are on a diet even when there is no weight to lose. We throw up and have surgeries as if we'd die if we didn't get pretty. We judge faces and fight with each other. Why do we do that? I really don't want to anymore. From now on, I will concentrate on what makes me really happy." This is the final episode of My Ideas Gangnam Beauty, and an empowering note to end on. It is imperative that you do things, wear things, change things about yourself to keep things as they are. All that makes you happy. Not for your partner, your crush, your friends, or the world. Everyone is struggling with their own insecurities, and the most you can do for them is be honest about yours, not criticise others' faces or bodies or your own. If everyone acted the same, it would be terribly boring. Our sense of individuality, our unique features, are beautiful. We are all beautiful no matter what we see in the mirror and no matter what society tells you. If you're struggling with any issues discussed today, please seek help and reach out for your support system. There is nothing to be ashamed of, and you may be surprised to find that you are not alone. Excuse the slight wind, the fan is on as I am hot, and I will be reading my notes down here. We are continuing our discussion on the K-drama My Ideas Gangnam Beauty, this time on gender norms. We are slowly becoming more progressive in straying from traditional gender norms. There is a community of those who are non-binary, gender non-conforming, agender, and those with other gender identity labels. Men and women are also, on the whole, not constricted to breadwinner or housewife roles. However, as of 2022 in sub-Saharan Africa, on average 1 in 4 women are family and homemakers compared to 1 in 10 men. Women are less employed, and when they are, have part-time jobs and stable jobs that are limited to female occupations. 3 out of 10 Southern Africa countries don't allow women in the same work industries as men. Additionally, only 19% of the Middle East labour force are women. Aside from prevalent inequality, there are still ideas about female inadequacy, emotionality or sensitivity, and intellectual difference to men. There is a heavy drinking culture in Korea, as they do work so hard, especially within workplace and community settings, in order to facilitate bonding and togetherness. However, in Korean dramas, there is a sense of women being weaker than men and in need of help from them. Therefore, when drinking in social situations, the men tend to offer and drink the women's alcohol for them so they don't get drunk. This is seen as chivalry and perhaps an indicator that the man cares for the woman, but it presumes that she needs rescuing. This is particularly evident in the bar scene, where Suwa and Mireille both have their drinks consumed for them by interested men. Though it could be argued that there has been evident progression, as although most of the men can handle their alcohol, Woo Young gets drunk faster than even Mireille, which suggests that the weaker or inferior mentality is not limited to women here. Woo Young hides this for a while and argues against being a lightweight in front of Mireille as he is interested in her, but eventually does admit to it. In terms of character intelligence, progression can be seen as rather than a female lead with a bad grade, Mireille is a chemistry major. She is clearly smart and a proficient perfumer, although her counterpart Kyung-suk is presented as more effortlessly intelligent. He leaves through textbooks and memorises easily, and then can recount said information easily. It is tough to tell how much each of them study, as there is not much focus on this aspect, but he falls into the trope of inherently smart male leads. He also sees through Suwa's facade instantly, whereas Mireille is naive and it takes her most of the season to figure it out. It could be argued that this is down to character and not gender, as after an incident, Min Jung also figures this out. Whilst Min Jung and Kyung-suk's sister are not the most academically intelligent, other female characters are seen to be, such as Kyung-suk's mum. She is the CEO of a perfume brand and previously worked in the lab. She has advanced far into her career and is talented. Through the intelligence of female characters, we can see there is progression, although overall there are far more academically smart male characters in K-dramas. But Mireille and Kyung-suk's mum provide smart, hard-working role models for female viewers, being more reflective of the working female population in contemporary times. Kyung-suk's mum faced a lot of hardship through her career. Her husband consistently berated her about focusing on it too much and working a lot. She was asked the question most accomplished family women are asked: what is more important, your work or your family? Despite few, if no men, being asked the same. It is expected that a man focus on his career first and his children after, but the inverse is expected of women, going back to the traditional values and roles still imposed today. Her husband states that everyone else dreams of becoming a housewife, which may be true when considering the background he comes from. He is a wealthy businessman and then mayor, who has been surrounded by women who marry for money and status, then willingly take on the role of trophy and housewife. He failed to realise that she was not the same as these women, and when confronted with the truth he hit her. This damaged her olfactory nerves, which forced her to give up her job. She lost her touch with reality and ended up having to leave the family to return to the workforce, away from her aggressive husband. As her job was so important to her, she got back on her feet and continued to progress. This determination and perseverance is a great example and learning opportunity for viewers. It also shows how important working is to some women, and once again challenges these traditional roles. Mireille has no backbone from the beginning to around the middle of My Idea's Gangnam Beauty, which did make it hard to watch for a while. She is timid, self-conscious, and doesn't stand up for herself. But as the show goes on, she is able to confront Suwa and the sleazy male characters, such as the man in the cinema, the furniture worker, and the campus creep known as Mop. Min Jung is a forward, aggressive, and respectable woman who stands up for herself and Mireille. She chases her dreams of becoming a rapper, a male-dominated field, and is supportive of Mireille's ambitions. They both provide examples of strong, independent women who help each other become better versions of themselves. There are also sensitive male characters such as Kyung-sok and Woo-young who express their emotions well and aren't afraid to be sensitive. Kyung-sok is in touch with others' emotions such as Mireille and his sister and doesn't hold back from sharing his affection, jealousy and worries. Mireille's dad clearly cares about her but has difficulty showing sensitivity and expresses himself by having fun with her at karaoke, checking in on her and buying her the most expensive cake at the shop, rather than traditionally expressing it in words. He and Kyung-sok's dad both have a hard time emotionally expressing themselves, possibly due to their generational views on masculinity and their own experiences. Kyung-sok's dad berates him as a child for crying because he is a man, but his mother comforts him and retorts that he can cry if he wants to. That gender doesn't affect emotions and he should be able to show them. The only emotional expression that men do seem to allow is anger, which is typically the most unhealthy when acted upon and most ugly when unjustified or dramatised. However, the sensitivity of some of the younger generation men do prove that there is a positive trend to men being able to express themselves and being open about their feelings. The last point on gender is a bit more light-hearted. Mireille tends to wear a lot of English and some French slogan clothes. She wears a shirt that reads "Raise boys and girls the same way." Not to be picky and talk about how that slogan excludes other genders, but aside from that, it provides a positive message that we should try not to impose gender norms and expectations. Men, women and people in general should be treated equally and should express themselves however suits them individually. The next topic will be shorter and will be focused on grades in my idea of Gang Beauty. In this drama, as with most Korean dramas, there is a focus on getting good grades. Though there is a lack of study focus, we can see the impact on students. Kyung-sok's sister gets essentially last place on an exam and her stuff is taken from her room, even her computer which she uses to record and stream mukbang videos. These punishments are the standard for situations such as these. Despite good grades being an important thing worldwide, it is especially focused on in Asian countries such as South Korea. Achieving academically is the expectation, and if the child does not reach or exceed these, then they are seen as a disappointment. Of course, these do vary between families. Parents and teachers fail to realise that some children may require special attention or may have such issues affecting their concentration or absorption, such as ADHD or an intellectual disability. Furthermore, some people can absorb information and retain it, but find exams stressful or difficult and thus are unable to show their abilities. Exams are strict and subscribe to only one way of learning, or showing that they have learned, which is practically a memorisation skill, and only one way of judging ability, rather than a more representative measure such as accumulative coursework. If someone lacks memorisation technique and skill, then they are doomed to fail. And they can be influenced by both external and internal factors during the exams, which could then result in their failure. Kyung-sok asks her, "What did you do wrong? Getting bad grades isn't a bad thing," to comfort her. It is important to remember that grades and academic performance isn't everything, and everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. This support from Kyung-sok demonstrates that he is aware of her stress and the expectation placed on her, but she can see through it to realise that the degree to which exam grades are used as a measure of the person's worth is hyperbolic and damaging. Furthermore, a background character at the cinema spots Mireille and Kyung-sok dressed in their old-school uniform and makes several rude comments about them, such as, "I can't believe those little punks are dating, and they won't make it to college like that," which is ironic, as they already have. This adheres to the view that youth is solely about studying and preparing for a future career, and having fun with dating is looked down upon as wasting valuable time that could be used for studying. Mireille stands up to him and he becomes embarrassed. At the university, there is less emphasis on ranking and grades, possibly due to the main focus on relationships and beauty standards, but it also exemplifies that grades are not the only important thing, and there are other issues and attributes that require attention, such as self-growth, socialising, relationships, and becoming comfortable as an individual with their own style and expression of beauty. Another issue briefly covered in My Ideas Gangnam Beauty is the Sunbae-Hubei relationship. Although it is... This is less important, so I'm going to end the video here, and then I'll add at the end. Another issue briefly covered in My Ideas Gangnam Beauty is the Sunbae-Hubei relationship. Although it is true that not every establishment will have this, or to the extent shown in dramas, the Sunbae overlord type has some ground in reality. Due to the value of respecting your elders in South Korea, Sunbaes would be given more leniency. They would be treated as somewhat superior, as a more experienced and knowledgeable being, and would be treated well by Hubeis. Some Sunbaes use this respect to their advantage, such as the Sunbae referred to as Mop. He frequently looks down on Hubeis, forces them to do exercise in the field, flirts with them, and rounded them up in the bathroom. He began to attack Mireille, but was fortunately stopped by Kyung-sok. Other Sunbaes, such as from the committee, gave instructions for the female Hubeis to wear revealing outfits and serve at the pop-up bar, regardless of their discomfort. Furthermore, exam notes or cheats were passed down by the seniors if they liked the younger students, meaning they would have to be treated well, respected, obeyed, and flattered by them in order to give out help. This is more of an issue expressed in Thai dramas, but the expectation is ever more prevalent in Korean dramas and society, though a less dramatised version. Respect is a cultural value and thus still very much part of modern society. Unfortunately for those who are near power abuses, this value doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. However, the Hubeis do eventually stand up for themselves in the committee, having quit and reprimanded the Sunbaes, and in the bathroom scene where Kyung-sok and Mireille's friends attempted to stop Mop. They defy him. Overall, it is still expected to give respect to elders, but when they abuse their power or step into an illegality realm, it is important for Hubeis to stand up for themselves and contact authorities when relevant.